It wasn't too long ago when Funke Akindele ended up having the highest grossing film of all time in West Africa, with even some reports pointing that it is actually the highest grossing film in the entirety of the continent of Africa. And I thought of the implications of what this success actually means, not just for her as a filmmaker or Nollywood as a film industry, but the implication of it for the entire continent of Africa. And so I wanted to do this video to deliberate on what that means. My name is Papa Otu, and and this is actually the Film Mandate. So, where we talk about everything movies and the things we love about them. So, first and foremost, let's quickly take a look at this particular graphic that indicates the amount of money that Funke Akindele was able to gross as a result of her film being that successful. So Funke Akindele is one of Nigeria's or Nollywood's prominent, not just actress, not just a producer, but also dabbles into directing as well. And for the film behind the scenes, it ended up becoming the highest grossing film of all time, surpassing every other movie that has been on that top 10 list for quite a long time. And I'm talking about Behind the Scenes, which was released quite recently in the cinemas just from the last quarter of last year into this year. And already it has made 2.28 billion naira. And if I'm to round it up, I'm not so certain, it will be around $30 million. And I know perhaps if we are to compare to what it's seen in the West, we may go like, oh, it is nothing. But the truth of the matter is this: the amount of money they've been able to make within the short period of time, considering the limited number of cinemas that exist, not just in Nigeria, but in the other countries that it also played in, it points to how successful and juggernaut of the film that this particular film by Funke Akindele has become. And it shows that there is hunger for African content once it is done well, once it has the production value deserving of it being shown in the cinemas and having hordes of audiences trooping in there to watch them as well. So indeed, it is a success of a magnitude that is not just a matter of the value compared to that of film industries in the West or in other places and how their films are performing, but it shows it's an indication of what Africa stands to gain if we are able to properly structure our industry and bring it back to the state that would cause a lot of people to want to, watch these movies and invest in them as well. So these are some of the key reasons why I think that the success by Funke Akindele, it is indeed something very welcoming. But key to it is to see how best we can analyze this success and see how the industries across board from different African countries can see make a case study of this success and make it work. One of the things that we cannot take away from this success, which ought to actually be mentioned, is how Nollywood as an industry or Nigeria as a whole has supported or been very supportive of this movie. And I think it is something that Nollywood or Nigeria as a people and as a country have been able to harness when it comes to their music. Nigeria or Nigerians in general are very supportive of their very own music, and the fervor and passion with which they even sometimes help promote it ends up infecting all Africans across board, where we end up liking the music as well. And I can speak, from first hand being a Ghanaian, where we are almost like twins of the same mother, twins of Africa. And anytime a music is released in Nigeria, for some reason, it is so infectious that it just doesn't. become a phenomenal hit in Nigeria alone, but ends up being a phenomenal hit in Ghana as well, and spreads across the entirety of Africa and the world at large. So I can see them doing same with their movies, and indeed, not only was behind the scenes a success in Nigeria, but it also ended up being a success in Ghana as well, as it was actually shown in the cinemas, as well as South Africa. And I must say that sorry, also successful in parts of US. But the key thing is this: it's not like it received a wide theatrical release. That is where the challenge is. If it had perhaps a wider theatrical release, I can guarantee you that it would have, the numbers would have ballooned to such an astronomical height that you see how, you will get to see from the very perspective I'm talking about in terms of what we stand to gain if our industry is or was properly aligned. Pardon me for bringing this graphics. The reason why I brought this graphics is as a result of the some of the laurels it's been able to achieve. But with regards to the what's it called? With regards to the the figure there, this is quite an older image, so definitely the first one is higher than what we are seeing now. So just to highlight on some of the successes that it has already garnered, in terms, automatically it's been the highest grossing film of all time in West Africa, sort of lends itself for it being a movie where, in various regards or respects, Funke Akindele has ended up becoming the highest grossing director of all time, the highest grossing writer of all time, and so forth. And indeed, it is something, that she's been building over the years. She's not just one night wonder, but with regards to what she's been able to do over time, this indeed ends up being the fruits of her labor. And I must say that it's not just as a result of that, but for the fact that a lot of Nigerian films have have come to sort of bring back a passion and a love for African films is something worth celebrating, and that's what they've been able to do. And already she's had five amazing successful films, which successful film not just critically but also financially as well. And therefore, it is of no surprise that it being released just in the last quarter of 2025, it has already shot up to become the number one film in West Africa. As to whether the entirety of Africa, I cannot speak to that fact, and I do not know the entire data that points to the fact that that is indeed a number one film in West Africa. I'm not saying it is not. I'm just saying that I don't know how what the data actually says. But in West Africa, yes, that is indeed the case. But I feel like even this number is quite underserved, considering the fact that it was just released in three countries, and even in those three countries, they are quite a limited release. So given the opportunity to be released in the entirety, or in, let's say, even the entirety of West Africa, assuming it's released in all West African countries, this number will even shoot far higher, perhaps triple than what we can see. But then this alone points to a fact that the what's it called, the West African industry is actually an industry rife to sort of it's an industry that points to how potential, the potential of our industry would be realized if given the entire opportunity to push that further. And so I think this is a clear indication that we have a much passionate desire for our films now. Yes, coupled with the fact that it has gotten better in terms of production value and storytelling in general. And that is something that we should be proud of as Africans. And once again, I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate Funke Akindele for her success. This is a story that when it broke, I did a reportage on that from the Vanguard website. It's a Nigerian publication, but I felt like the success that they have been able to achieve, it's something worth talking about because it indeed paints a picture of what we stand to gain if we tell good or great stories that the audience are demanding or would actually like to watch, coupled with production values, high production, value, and proper marketing and distribution in cinemas, we would see numbers that would dwarf what we are seeing now on this very, production. And I think that perhaps it's more than uh, necessary that we have a dialogue. I think that if we're going to be able to compete with what we can see from the east and the west, and all other countries in between, there is the need for film industries across Africa to sit down, have a dialogue together with governments, and come up with a strategic plan where film distribution networks will be set across all these nations, and then a fair, a properly regulated system will put in place where films from all these countries, whether big or small, whether bigger industries or non-existent industries, will be given fair opportunity for it to be showcased in cinemas across Africa, and see how best we can use this opportunity to push our industry further and make it better. Last but not the least, recently I did a report on how the Asian region is pursuing a transnational agenda in making sure their films are not just funded, but they also get to reach the farthest corners of the world, in terms of wherever there may be cinemas, or wherever there may be an industry or audience to pay attention to their movies. So that is something, that's a leaf that we can take from their, industry's book to apply to our own. And I can tell you, if we can do that for ourselves, the skies is not even the limit. I can guarantee you that the skies is not even the limit, because here is the case where Africa is the second most populous continent in the world, and I don't know whether the second most populous continent in the world takes into consideration those in the diaspora, those who have left the main continent into the other, regions of the world. So I can guarantee you that if it is properly networked together with even screenings in the diaspora regions, these numbers will be voluminous, will be very huge, even with the very likely potential that someday soon we would clock $1 billion easily, and without perhaps breaking a sweat. So it is possible, and I'm excited about this news that we've had concerning Funke Akindele's success of her movie Behind the Scenes, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do as a nation and what individual filmmakers can learn from her success, and Film One Entertainment, who distributed this film, and see how best we can replicate this success going forward, even more so than ever before. So let me know what you think with regards to this story. It's just a short story for today. Leave your comments and your thoughts with regards to this necessary topic that that was necessary to have been discussed, or to discuss in this episode, so that we can see the way forward. Let's keep the conversation going. It's necessary that we talk about all these things and see our industry grow to the heights that we want to see. My name is Papa Otu, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.